that a recommendation can be made to National Treasury to clarify the matter.
On the long-term incentives, also continuing on that, the long-term incentive is a staff retention scheme at the PIC only for senior
Sorry, can I just go back a second? Advocate Libber, why would it be the role of the National Treasury as distinct from the Minister of Finance? Because the shareholder rep is specifically the Minister of Finance. Obviously, the National Treasury has a role to play in supporting the Minister, but the engagement, as I understand it, is the Minister of Finance, not the National Treasury.
My apology, you are absolutely correct, through you, Mr. Commissioner.
Thank you. The long-term incentive is a staff retention scheme at the PIC only for senior employees and management from grading D5 and above who have served at the PIC for 3 years and longer and maintained a performance rating of 3.5 and above. The LTI process is unclear and dissatisfactory, as staff members who are conditionally allotted this performance reward do not receive letters confirming such allotment. This leaves the process open to undue meddling with the reward amounts to be paid out at the time of vesting, and in some cases the policy has been changed and retrospectively applied to the detriment of those who have previously qualified, as in case 5 that I've highlighted here. As previously alluded to, only senior management level employees qualify for the LTI incentives, and we believe all staff members who have served a 3-year term and maintain the required performance score of 3.5 should benefit from the scheme, as everyone contributes in some way to the continued success of the institution.
Can I just ask you, how often is the shareholder compact revised? Is it annual?
It's revised annually.
Would there be any reason for an annual revision if, you know, budgeting and everything else usually has a 3 to 5 year horizon? Why would it be an annual? One wouldn't expect or anticipate a need for an annual review of the relationship. Certainly a regular review of performance and everything else is different, but a shareholder compact one would have thought is longer than a 12-month period. Is there any I think you understand or appreciate as to why it became, and has it always been an annual review?
I'm not sure if it's always been an annual review, but we also don't, well, I don't understand why it has to be changed annually, as for the reasons you alluded to. But in this instance, the main impact has been the reducing pool. So I don't know whether it's to address that or other issues, but yeah, we've just picked up that trend, that every time it's reviewed annually, there are many changes within the policy in terms of how certain things in the company are going to be implemented.
Another question here, just in terms of the LTI, within various companies, how is it done? Is it done across the board, or they will just choose a few employees and say the LTI belongs to this?
Well, in terms, as a retention strategy, it's understandable to select the high performers, because those are the people we want to keep. So in some companies it is selective, but in some companies you have share schemes that apply to all employees, because they also appreciate that it's not only senior managers or executive level managers that drive the company. So I think it's a position that some companies take. It's company dependent.
That sort of within the PIC there are no share schemes, you know, so those could replace the LTI. Is that
not
what
that I'm
saying?
aware of. So the LTI is the sort of retention strategy within the PIC.
And you think that should be applied broadly across the board, or given the performance?
It should be applied broadly, and if there's a sense where there needs to be differentiated, you already have performance ratings, you already have performance scores that will determine how much or at what level you participate in that LTI. So just to exclude some people, we think it doesn't drive that culture of performance throughout the whole company.
Can I just go back to the shareholder compact for a second? If it's renewed annually, is there any period at which it has expired and awaiting renewal? Or is it actually renewed timelessly so everybody knows exactly what has been changed?
Well, from experience, it is just communicated to staff members at staff meetings. For instance, when all of these changes were happening, we'd have a staff meeting where it is communicated it's changed, but we don't know exactly at which period or when does it start or end. Yeah. Further, we believe that the performance rules should be separated into two categories, that is the executive committee pool and staff pool. We believe this will provide more certainty for staff members going forward. The regrading process. The PIC undertakes a process of regrading staff members. This is where staff members' salaries are reviewed to ensure that they are in line with those of similar institutions in the market. The regrading process in 2017 is not clear to staff, as we felt that there are many inconsistencies and a lack of transparency regarding the whole process and its implementation. While the executive head, Human Resources, Mr. Chris Polwane, tried to explain the criteria used to arrive at the final numbers to staff members, we were still dissatisfied as there were vast discrepancies between employees in similar roles and grade bands. Many employees were also dissatisfied as the executive heads could not explain or justify their regrading. This situation created much distrust with the process and EXCO. In 2017, EXCO and staff members received regrading amounts. However, only executive committee members were paid a second tranche in August 2018 of the same regrading that took place in 2018. So in our view, we believe that EXCO looked after themselves essentially because there was a regrading process, and even in that regrading process, it wasn't applied or implemented fairly and consistently. It seemed like you had to be one of the favored people, or it was used as another mechanism used as victimization. So in conclusion, we request the following, or recommend the following be taken into consideration. That an independent body review the regrading process, that National Treasury or the Minister of Finance explain, as a shareholder rep, explain in writing its involvement in the awarding or calculation of bonuses to staff, that a new board and CEO be appointed as soon as possible to attend to the matters raised above, such as fear, victimization, and remuneration issues, that the Human Resources Remuneration Committee be composed of members who are experienced in dealing with HR matters, and should the Commission determine that the shareholders' compact was misinterpreted in the previous years, that bonuses due to staff be paid back to staff. There should be certainty on the payment date of bonuses going forward, transparency in the moderation committee and principles applied in the moderating processes, and that the determination of bonuses be based on a percentage of management fees as opposed to cost that is contained in the latest shareholders' compact.
Can I just ask you, as you have not dealt with this in your presentation, the Commission heard evidence this morning from Mr. Motemele in detail about a climate survey that was performed in 2017 and 2018 and the reluctance of staff members to take part in this survey. Can you just briefly explain to the Commission, if you know what was the reason or reasons for that?
I think the general feeling was that whatever responses would have been given would have found their way ultimately to management. So it was a fear of responding to those questionnaires because they would be traced back to a particular individual, and those would have consequences in terms of remuneration, in terms of opportunities to move up within the company, and all of those. So many members felt that they'd rather not participate because there was that culture of fear, and you will be singled out if you are seen to be portraying or giving an honest opinion which is not in favor.
I have no further questions, Mr. Commissioner.
Just in terms of the sowing of fear and victimizing people and all that. Roughly, how many people were doing this, victimizing stuff? And are you able to name, you have mentioned some names here, are you able to name names?
Well, the names that come out in the cases we have, I'll use that as a reference, is Ms. Matsepo More, largely. That's the name that has come out in the cases that we've had here. But like I say, the culture of fear is you live that culture. So maybe Dr. Dan, to a certain extent, people felt they couldn't challenge, or if it came from him, it had to be implemented his way. So there's just generally that culture, and then also other members of the executive as well, who would be seen maybe as enforcers, if I could put it that way. In particular, well, our HR.
HR, meaning what, Mr. Poloni, or what?
Yes, Commissioner.
Mr. Poloni, okay. And any other names, any other people? No? We just want to get the scale of them. Is it 5, 10 people, or 3 people, or 2 people? You don't even have to mention names.
It cascades down because right at the top you have that feeling that you can't question. So the rest of the EXCO is probably powerless, or they also don't want to expose themselves or want to be seen to be going against the executive directors. So, but that is from maybe observation, and it's not something that is contained in the cases that we have.
Thanks.
Has there been any sense from those of you who are officials in the union and who have worked to get over 60% of the members, of the staff as members, has there been any sense of victimization or singling any of you out, either as the executive or as people joining and becoming members of the union?
Well, we've got recently on one of the transactions that have come before the commission, some of our members have been served with, I don't know whether it's cautionary disciplinary letters, and we believe that maybe this is also a mechanism that is now being used to victimize members and single out members who've come either to present or relay their stories. So we've
Referring to the information last week of 11 people being disciplined?
yes, Commissioner.
Thanks.
Membership of your union, where do they start? A level below executive heads or further down?
So, Commissioner, we are negotiating the recognition agreement with PIC currently. And in those deliberations with PIC management, one of the issues was particularly that on who can become a member. So everyone can be a member of the union, but we're still deliberating on who can form part of the bargaining council. And that hasn't been clarified yet with those negotiations. It's a pending matter that we're still deliberating on and negotiating on. But currently everyone can or join the union.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Can I just remind, I know that Advocate Libber mentioned that in any event at the PIC, it is known who the writers of or compilers of those statements that were read are. But for purposes of the public, may I just repeat that the name that was mentioned should not appear on the record, and it should be removed from the record.
It is noted, Mr. Commissioner.
Yes,
Thank you.
And that is an order.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mutimela. Is it Mutimela?
Begce.
Mr. Begce. Mutimela was before you. And your colleagues
Thank you.
for
Thank you, Commissioner.
coming to appear before us, and thanks for the evidence that you have put before us.
Thank you, Commissioner.
If there are any further matters that we'd like to clear with you, we'll call you back.
Okay,
Right?
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Commissioner, thank you. That is the business for Tuesday, the 2nd of July 2019.
Still here for the Wednesday.
And just a
The 3rd of
reminder
July.
that we start at 9:30.
Right, we shall then adjourn until 9:30 tomorrow morning. Thank you.